I think we'll probably eventually find 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, we'll find that these documents in the British archives, probably under some kind of seal of secrecy, never to be published in our lifetime, this kind of thing. And there's quite a few documents like that. Rudolph Hess documents are still kept secret over the years, although I found a lot of Rudolph Hess files. He landed here near Hamilton, and when he came in May 1941, and a lot of people have been very mystified by what he came for. He came with a peace mission. He came with Hitler's peace proposals. Simple as that. And he then handed them over to the Duke of Hamilton, who actually met him 1 hour after he landed. He landed by parachute. It was a magnificent achievement. Rudolf Hess, he flew single-handed from Augsburg in southern Germany all the way across the North Sea up to the latitude of Edinburgh. Then he circled around in a while over the North Sea. Because it was still daylight, he waited until darkness fell. Then he turned the Messerschmitt 110 left across Scotland. He flew to very near here, recognized the landmarks he was looking for, then turned around 180 degrees, went back, counted off the seconds, turned the plane on its back, and tumbled out into the darkness and made his first ever parachute jump at the age of 47 or 48. An incredible achievement. And he landed 2 minutes flying time from the Duke of Hamilton's castle. And 1 hour later, he was actually talking to the Duke of Hamilton here in Glasgow in a police station. The Lord had wanted Rudolf Hess's magnificent achievement to be blessed with success. He'd come on a peace mission. He wanted to put an end to this crazy war, which was sapping the blood of Germany and sapping the blood of the British. Bombing, he wanted this war to stop before the real bombing began. That's what he said. When an English Lord Simon went to see him a few days later in captivity, and we got the transcript of what he said. And he said, "What was the actual reason that you flew over?" Rudolf Hess said, "Well, I'd been to see Hitler on August the 25th, 1940. And it was before the beginning of the bombing of Berlin, before the bombing of London. London was embargoed from bombing at that time. And he said, I had these nightmares. I couldn't sleep at night. I had nightmares which you had visions of lines of coffins of children with the mothers weeping behind them. Then again, I would have a nightmare of the other nightmare. It would be lines of the coffin of the dead mothers with children crying behind them. And I wanted to stop this before it began. Poor Rudolf Hess. That's the actual word that Rudolf Hess used. At the beginning of the book, the Rudolf Hess book, you'll see that I've got a picture showing exactly what he envisaged in Cologne a few months later. Just line upon line, thousands and thousands of coffins in some huge aircraft hangar, being identified, and this kind of thing is kept quiet. Churchill said to Sir Alexander Cadogan, he said, "I managed to intercept Rudolf Hess. We intercepted him before he could do any damage." And the interesting thing is whether the peace proposals ever got any further. Rudolf Hess was carrying a letter addressed to the King George VI. He was carrying a letter in which he set out the peace proposals. And when he arrived in the Glasgow police station, the Glasgow police took an inventory of everything he was carrying, including a little photograph of his little 3-year-old son, who I knew, a very nice man, but now dead, Wolfgang Hess. So there was that. But also included on the inventory is a letter addressed to King George VI. And that letter is not in the Rudolf Hess's possession 2 days later when he's flown down to the Tower of London. It's been taken from him by someone. Or did he give it to the Duke of Hamilton? He met the Duke of Hamilton in that police station, and he was then flown down to London. The Duke of Hamilton also flew down to London. He went and had lunch with the King, and I suspect that he handed over the letter to the King because he knew very, very well there's no point in handing over the letter to Churchill. I don't know how you feel about Churchill, but my own instincts are negative, very negative indeed. And I wrote to Buckingham Palace at the time. Mrs. Thatcher was the Prime Minister. I remember that very clearly because I wrote to Buckingham Palace and I said, can I have a look at the letters which Rudolf has brought and handed to Hamilton to hand to His Majesty the King? And I got the answer saying all these matters concerning Rudolf Hess and Winston Churchill are held at the exclusive disposal of the historian Martin Gilbert. Martin Gilbert, the Churchill biographer, multi-volume biography of Churchill, very good, but he's Jewish. And everything negative towards the Jews has been cut out. That's what happens. Rudolf Hess was just one aspect of the research I did. And it began when I was working in the National Archives in America. and I came across these exercise books, looking like exercise books, 10 or 12 exercise books. But they were written in German, and I recognized the exercise books. The exercise books were exercise books of the Royal Army Medical Corps, the RAMC, and they were in American archives, which is a good thing, because if they're in a British archive still, they would have been held secret for the next 100 years under the rules. But no, these American archives then retained the Rudolph Hess the records of the Rudolph Hess's stay in British captivity for the next 4 or 5 years, written by British Army doctors. And they vanished with him back to Nuremberg, where he was put on trial, and he eventually ended up in prison. He stayed in prison for the next 47 years of his life. And he stayed in solitary confinement till he was finally murdered by a man whose name I know. He is a black GI, an American soldier. He's still living in Berlin. And they had a fight on the last day Rudolph Hess's life, a struggle. And that was the end of Rudolph Hess. But these diaries of Rudolph were the beginning of the Rudolph Hess inquiry.